Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. I'm Architect Ben. Today I'm so excited because for a very long time we've waited for something like this to be said to the government, or waiting for someone who could actually come out and say the truth as it is to the government. And it's so exciting to know that someone has really come out to tell the government what he feels is going wrong and tell truth to power. I've eagerly waited for a day like this. We are those people that matter, the people that we look at, the statesmen of this country that will really come out and tell the president the true situation of things and how people are faring, how people are doing. And in this video, I'm excited to bring what Pastor Bakari said yesterday during his State of the Nation address. He addressed major issues, and I was so excited when I heard him say that, telling truth to power. In case you have not watched the video, please go ahead and watch it now.
Last few months, since that admonition in January, have shown that those responsible for steering the course of our nation lack the humility and the character this moment demands of leaders. Instead, what we have seen since the beginning of the year is a descent into tyranny and a brazen abuse of power. Those entrusted with power appear determined to destabilize what is left of our political institutions and have committed themselves to obliterating the guardrails of constitutional governance. From the theater of the absurd, staged in Rivers State, with puppets on strings controlled by directors in Abuja, to the dance of shame performed by the National Assembly in their rush to suspend the Constitution and endorse through the back door the usurpation of powers by President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, from the Senate shameless bid to silence Senator Natasha Akpoti-Uduaghan for demanding that the President of the Nigerian Senate should uphold the moral standard required of that office, to the uncouth outbursts of an undistinguished senatorial misfit who tried in vain to silence the distinguished citizens attempting to testify on behalf of Senator Akpoti-Uduaghan. It is clear that our so-called leaders are determined to turn Nigeria into a mafia state. The two main contenders in the ongoing institutional immorality Olympics are the executive and the legislature. It's often said that these two arms of government suffer the worst forms of arrested development because they were the direct victims of the military era. But after 26 years of uninterrupted democracy, one must ask, how much longer before our institutions finally mature? While it is not in dispute that our institutions and constitution are inadequate, it has become obvious that our biggest problems in this nation are the occupiers of these institutions and executors of the Constitution. The quality of leadership in Nigeria has become so repugnant that citizens must declare a state of emergency on governance, demanding that every aspiring public office holder undergo rigorous psychiatric evaluation before seeking election. Dear Nigerians, the events that unfolded on the floor of the Senate Committee on Ethics, Privileges, and Public Petitions on Tuesday, March 25, 2025, are an apt and timely illustration of our leadership deficit. Senate, the word, originates from the Latin senatus, which means council of elders. Elders, as used in this context, does not necessarily connote chronological age, but a demonstration of such wisdom, decorum, and decency that commands respect. Senator Onyekachi Nwemboye's descent into street-level vitriol was an affront to the essence of the Senate. Instead of engaging the visiting citizens in reason, factual debate, he chose to drag the hallowed chambers through the mud. Dr. Obia Ezekwesili, in recognition of our accomplishments in political reform and gender inclusion advocacy, was appointed chairwoman of the Board of Women Political Leaders, WPL, a global body based in Brussels, Belgium, in February 2023. In that capacity, it is our responsibility to speak up whenever a female Nigerian politician is subjected to the misogynistic idiosyncrasies of politics in Nigeria. It was in that capacity that she appeared to speak for Senator Natasha Akpoti-Uduaghan, who has leveled allegations of sexual harassment against the President of the Senate of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, Senator Godswill Akpabio. There's clear evidence in reports and recordings from the occasion that there were repeated attempts to intimidate and silence Dr. Ezekwesili and her team. The institutional collapse and the failure of our leadership recruitment process was summed up in Senator Iwemboye's statement to Dr. Obia Ezekwesili. People like you cannot be here. People like who exactly? What that means is that the Senate is not a place for the best. It's not a place for the brightest. It's not a place for the fittest and most competent in our country. What that means is that our political institutions are not designed for people of character, competence, and capacity, as Dr. Obia Ezekwesili often puts it. What that means is that our legislature is not designed for people who are sticklers for accountability and due process, but for a band of legislators. For those who question why Dr. Obia Ezekwesili stood up to the bullies and fought back, let me remind us that in the God-given wisdom of King Solomon, there are two ways to respond to such situations. And these two ways are found in Proverbs chapter 26, verses 4 and 5. It states, and I quote, verse number 4, "Do not answer a fool according to his folly, lest you also be like him." Verse 5, "Answer a fool according to his folly, lest he be wise in his own eyes." While Dr. Obia Ezekwesili chose to apply the wisdom contained in verse number 5, "For the attack dogs who may come after me, for standing with my sister and compatriot, I rest my case with the wisdom contained in verse 4. I'm not going to join issues with you. Fellow citizens, at the center of this political banditry is the motor park brand of politics, nurtured by the old brigade politicians, and in recent times by President Bola Ahmed Tinubu. Mr. President, it is through your influence that the Nigerian National Assembly has become a haven for legislative rascality. Mr. President, it's under your watch that the National Assembly has become an extension of the executive, grossly violating the principles of separation of powers and rubber stamping the whims and caprices of your office, all while singing the international anthem of psychoviolence on your mandate, we shall stand. Mr. President, thanks to your political machinations, Nigeria is now bedeviled by a captured National Assembly, the most ineffective in its checks and balances role since the start of the Fourth Republic. In 2006, the Fourth National Assembly had the audacity to reject the tenure extension bid of a sitting president. In 2010, the Sixth National Assembly summoned the courage to stand against the power hijacking cabal and restore Nigeria to the path of constitutionality by invoking the doctrine of necessity. In 2011, the House of Representatives of the Seventh National Assembly had the courage to elect its leaders, as did the Senate of the Eighth National Assembly in 2015, defying executive interference. This National Assembly, the 10th, has by its unconstitutional endorsement of the president's abuse of powers proven to be the most spineless in our recent history. Through its actions and inactions, the National Assembly has in effect become the 48th member of the president's cabinet. While a cabinet minister has more or less become a third-time state governor in Rivers State, pampered by the indulgences of the president. Recent events have made it clear to Nigerians that had this assembly been in place in 2006, when the third-term agenda was proposed, our democracy would have since morphed into one of Africa's lamentable tales of sit-tight dictatorship. To the president of the Nigerian Senate, who has not heeded the call to subject himself to an unbiased investigation, to clear his name of the allegations leveled against him, and under whose leadership the National Assembly has become a carry-go legislature, hiding under the umbrella of technicalities and a dubious voice voting system, I leave you and your conscience with the words of Frederic Bessières, former deputy of the French National Assembly. He said, and I quote, "When plunder becomes a way of life for a group of men in a society, over the course of time, they create for themselves a legal system that authorizes it and a moral code that glorifies it." To the President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, under whose brand of politics the institution of legislative oversight is collapsing and our democracy is faced with an existential threat, I say, Mr. President, Nigeria is too delicate for this kind of politics. If this state capture was what you meant by a Milokan, it is an anticlimax that can only be counterproductive at the end. I urge you, Mr. President, to think deeply and reflect on these words. No man is wise enough, nor good enough to be trusted with unlimited power. Mr. President, please stop playing God.
Yeah, like I said, for once, after a very long while, someone has really come out to say truth to power and tell the government as it is. Yeah, he said it. We know too well that there will be a lot of backlash on Pastor Bakari. But like he said, he's not going to respond. And I also want to encourage him not to respond to any of the critics of the president, be it his spokesman or whoever. He should just keep his cool. One thing we know is that he's been vindicated. The truth has been told. It is left for the president and his team now to either go by his advice or discard it like always, and continue on the path of taking the nation deep down into the pit. But I pray that wisdom prevail for Mr. President, and let him be humble enough to take into account what Pastor Tony Bakari has said, and probably implement some of the strategies he has put forward. In doing that, he will show that he is matured enough to accept criticism and is willing truly to take this country on the path of greatness. God bless Nigeria. And like I said, I know for sure Nigeria will be great again. Thank you for watching this video. And please don't forget to subscribe. Don't forget to like. And don't forget to turn on your notification button. Thank you so much. Bye for now.